Nicholas, we're here in something that's a kind of Kiwi paradise. We've got the beach, we've got the surf, we've got the trees, we've got the vegetation, and into this spot, you've landed a fantastic house. Tell us how, when you were working the design up, you responded to all those powerful environmental influences.
Such a beautiful beach and such a much-loved beach comes a certain responsibility when you build on it, that you don't dominate the beach. So one thing that we looked at the beginning really was, how do we create a building that really fits into its site, that nestles in behind the tree, that responds to the natural environment, to the texture of the rock, to the texture of the pūtakawa tree, and also recedes. We made a black house which actually doesn't reflect the light and creates the effect of a building that really nestles right back into its environment. And we created a shape of a building which had an organic quality to it. So it wasn't a square box, it wasn't a glass fishbowl type house. It was a building which had a sense of growing out of the hillside itself.
And it's enormously powerful too. It seems like a contradiction that a house should be both modest but powerful, but it does that. The way it bookends the beach, the way it anchors this end of the beach, looks out along the length of it. It has a kind of very considerable authority, I think, but it is nevertheless, as you say, the authority of a beach house, which is the authority of the casual, relaxed Kiwi lifestyle, but in this case, constructed with considerable elegance. It's a rather beautiful house, I think. Stevenslawson's aim is to produce architecture of humanism and spirit, and these two guys really make this happen with this masterpiece on Waiheke Island. It seems to me the great architecture also has atmospheric qualities which are not really physical. I wonder if you'd like to talk to me a little about what atmospheric qualities you were looking for in this house and some of the ways in which you set out to achieve them.
The way we've responded to creating the right sort of atmosphere for this particular site is through using as natural a materials as possible in as raw a state as possible. We have oiled ceilings, we have oiled floors, we have a lot of raw natural materials which go a long way to setting up the kind of qualities that the space will take on.
I observed that the fins, the exterior cedar fins on the outside of the building, are actually one of the functions they perform. And I actually think, like many parts of the house, that they perform many functions. But one of the functions is to kind of protect the privacy of the people inside. They act like an exterior curtain in some ways. And of course they also add a considerable level of interest to the way the facade is treated, the way those fins run up and down the face of the building with their irregular profile.
The fins on this house, they kind of have a dual purpose of revealing and concealing. So from the outside there's a concealment, and the inside it allows views through, but without feeling as though you're being watched. Floating hearth, firewood kept downstairs. I really admire the ceiling. I really like the way the timber ceiling operates. Natural oil finish?
Yeah, totally.
And dead tight, isn't it? I mean, the builder's done a really fantastic job in it. Yeah. The deck that's used in winter when you've got an offshore breeze, and of course that's the deck that you use in summer. Once again, the same terrazzo used on the bench top. Yep. Lovely finish.
Beautiful little shells on the end.
Yeah, yeah. You can kind of imagine that the shells come off the beach, can't you? It's kind of connects you back to the beach. Nicholas, I'm interested in how you've developed your practice. Clearly there are a lot of things going well with the practice because you can produce work like this. But when you and Gary first set it up, and you're the core of it, what did you set out to achieve?
Yeah, well, we designed collaboratively, which is a little unusual, but not totally unheard of. And we think it gives something very special to the process, that we come to every situation, every design problem from two angles at the same time, and we progress in the direction that we both agree upon. So all our ideas instantly have buy-in from two sides. I think it also brings a kind of a richer palette of ideas to each particular project. And it also has some kind of chemistry or mysterious quality, I would say, that it probably we don't want to analyse too much because it works.
Nicholas, it seems to me that there are three fundamental ingredients in putting together an architectural project. Clearly there's the architect, or the group of architects, or the pair of you in this case. There's the site, which has a whole lot of issues which bear on it. And then there's the client, and it occurs to me that the relationship between the architect and the client is one of the fundamental things that an architect has to develop in order for the project to run well. Would you like to talk about that a little?
Yeah, Gary and I share an intense passion for architecture, and we want to do innovative work, and we want to do work that responds strongly to our New Zealand context. We want it to be work that moves people. We don't want it to be a passive experience. We want our architecture to enhance people's lives, to lift their spirits, to make them feel. So, that's the baseline for us. And whether that's designing a house or a public building or any number of buildings, that's the same. We are trying to move the soul.
Gary, we've talked about general relationships, but in the specific case of this house, how did the relationship with this client develop? I would guess it developed pretty well because the house is so fantastic.
I think the first thing that struck us was the client's very long-term relationship with the site. They've been coming here for over 30 years, and so they had a strong passion for the site, the land, and a familiarity with the people around them. And so their ambitions for the project were to not get it wrong. That mutual respect of the landscape and the site, from that grew a relationship of trust and respect for what we were trying to do and for their ambitions for the project too.
Gary, one of the things I really like about this house is that it looks effortless, but I know that you and everybody in your practice has to work like mad to achieve that. How do you do that? How do you make things look easy when I know that they're really, really hard?
I don't think anything meaningful comes easily. And unless there's a certain amount of, bump and grind or effort, then I don't believe you actually ever feel as though you've truly done your job properly. You need to push and question and experiment.